It's on the very last page of the packet.
That last page.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Because it's a good one. I realize the power of spiritual truth. I'm going to try to project because a couple of you have said you have a hard time hearing. Just do this, and I'll pick up my voice again, okay? So our second unity principle is what? Not rhetorical. It's a test.
Pre-test.
The divine is within all of us, and
Therefore, we're inherently good.
The divine is in all of us. So here's one way to remember the 5 principles. 2 words. God is, I am, I create, I pray, I live. God is everywhere present. I am an expression of that divine. I create my life experience. Does that mean I created my cancer or car accident? Nope. No. You might have played a role in that. You might have been driving recklessly. You might have been living in an unhealthy way, right? But really, when we talk about I create my life experience, that means we create our inner experience. So whatever happens on the outside is going to happen, right? And as I clean up my stuff, who has stuff, right? As I clean up my stuff, I'm better able to navigate my experiences with ease and grace, right? One of the false beliefs about having a spiritual practice is that once I get my stuff together and I do my spiritual work, then bad things won't happen. That's not true. You will just be better equipped and better able to navigate those difficult times when they do happen. So I try to speak to, when I'm coming up with something to talk about and spiritual truths to share, I try to speak to what's alive, what's happening for people in the here and now, what's coming up for people. And there are some consistent themes in what people reach out and talk to me about. And one of those things is feeling overwhelmed with obligations. We've all we've had experience of lockdown. We've had experience of not being able to go out and do the things that we've, obligated ourselves to do, right? And a lot of people, and maybe you find yourself in this situation, a lot of people are saying, you know what? I don't want to go back to living that life. I don't want to go back to doing something every single night of the week. A dad recently reached out to me and he said, my kids' events and activities are all open up again. And he started crying and he said, I don't know if I can do it. I've been doing it for 11 years and I don't think I can do it. And of course, if you've heard me talk or if you've taken a class with me, inside I'm saying, yay, that's awesome, right? Right? That's great that you're having this experience, this emotional response, because that tells you that there's some magic to work with here. There's some opportunity for you to know principle number 2. Every challenging situation we are in is an opportunity to live our 5 principles. Every challenging situation is an opportunity to know that the presence of God is there, that we are an expression of that presence, and that we can create something. We can use our own creative life force energy. Right? It's all opportunity for us. So as I'm talking to this father about the activities, I asked him, have you asked your kids? He said, I hadn't thought of that. And isn't that beautiful? He was so caught up in a sense of obligation and a sense of what he had to do as a father. He had to attend every practice, every game, every dance, whatever. He was so caught up in his sense of obligation that he forgot to think about the very beings involved and affected by that obligation. So he talks to his kids, and they all agreed they wanted to do something, but they only wanted to do one darn thing. Only one thing. The kids didn't want all those obligations either. And it was cute. He said, one of his kids says, I want to see my friends, but does it have to be at baseball? And isn't that a call, right? And an invitation? We want connection. But does it have to be organized and in a box and presented in a specific way? Maybe it's just about the connection. So this dad was a little upset because he's got one kid who's very athletic, and he's the one kid who doesn't want to do any sports. And again, there's an invitation there to know ourselves. And so I asked him, what's upsetting about that? And through conversation and questions, it came out, well, there was maybe a sense of living vicariously, through the glory of our children, right? And also what he could say to his friends. And he says, we all want to brag about our kids, right? What am I going to brag about? And I said, does he have anything else to offer other than his athleticism? And he was like, oh, well, when you put it that way. Right? But I think this speaks to how we get so caught up in the performance, the doing of life. We get so caught up in our roles. Think about your own life right now. What are your roles? How many of you are a parent? How many of you are a child? Okay, we all can raise our hand on that one, right? We all came from our parents. How many of you are a student? How about an employee? How about a grandparent? How about a spouse? How about a sibling? Right? So we have all of these roles that we play, and they all come with obligations. And what I'm going to invite you to think about today is, I would like you, so have you heard the latest conversation about consent, right? So lack of a no is not a yes, right? And this is consent for anything. Consent for intimate relations, consent for play, consent for anything. And I would like you to adopt this in your obligations. So a lack of a no is not a yes. And think about that. In your roles, you have assumed obligations when you've never committed to that. You've never said yes to that. Years ago, I made the realization that I was doing every frickin' person's laundry in my house. Every person who lived in my house, I was doing their laundry. I never consented to that. realized I had never said no, but that doesn't mean I say yes. So I want you to think about your own life and your own obligations and what are you consenting to? And I would like you to adopt an enthusiastic yes. If you're going to consent to something, I want you to be able to consent enthusiastically. If you want to do everyone's laundry, say, hallelujah, I will do your laundry. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. So think about the roles. I think the easiest way to think about this sense of obligation and how we're showing up in the world is to think about the roles we play in our lives. Think about what you're doing in these roles. And how do you feel about showing up in those roles? Do you have a sense of obligation? And how do you feel about that sense of obligation? The more purposefully, the more intentionally we live our lives, the more consciously we live our lives, the better able we are to show up as our best selves. Every person's life purpose is the same. It will show up differently for me, for you, but every person's life purpose is the same. Know who and what you are and live it. Who and what you are is an expression of God. You are an expression of the living Christ, right? All of us have that in us. And our life purpose is to know that and then live that. So part of how that shows up for me is ministry, right? Working with people in groups, one-on-one, small groups, classes, teaching. My heart sings when I do that. I feel great about it. I like to think I'm good at it. But that's not the totality, right? That's not the totality. One of the roles I play is minister, mentor, teacher. Those are roles that I play. And I do my best to show up as my best self in all of those roles. But my real work is when I'm sitting in a board meeting and somebody says something I don't want to hear. Although our board is great, that doesn't happen very much. Or when I'm talking with my adult children and they're making life decisions that I don't agree with. That's where my work really is. That's where my work really is. Because if you just listen to me, your life would be better, easier, and you would get to your end goal quicker and with less pain.
Just listen to you.
Just listen to me. However, I know in my own experience and what I've witnessed in literally every person I've worked with, is when you learn your life lesson on your own, it's actually a life lesson. If you listen to my words and take that as a life lesson, you haven't learned anything. You're just listening to what somebody else tells you. So I remind myself of that when my sons are making poor life decisions. And I say, I'm going to practice the art of allowing, allow him to set himself up for heartache. I'm going to allow him to set himself up for being overworked and underpaid. I'm going to practice the art of allowing, right? Because part of showing up as my best self is allowing other people to show up as themselves. And that often gets messed up with our roles that we play. So I want you to think about your roles. And there's two things that happen. One, we need to learn how to practice the art of allowing. Like when I stopped doing laundry for everybody who lived in my house, and my son had no clean clothes, and he had a job interview the next day, I remember standing in the doorway saying, I could just do a load. I could just do one load. What would he learn then? Right? So what did I do? I went to bed and I had a hard time going to sleep. But I allowed my son to have his dirty clothes. And he woke up in the morning and you know what he said to me? I thought you would do my laundry. And I said, I don't do your laundry anymore. And he said, I know. And I don't remember what happened after that. But when we think about how we show up and the roles that we play in relation to other people, whether we're a teacher and they're our students, whether it's our family, whether it's our work family, our spiritual home family, when we show up and we allow people to be who and what they are, we have created safe space. And at first, it is more difficult to do that at first. It was very difficult for me to stand by and look at that pile of dirty laundry with the 3 good shirts that my kid was willing to wear in that pile, knowing that one of those would be the best shirt to wear to a job interview. And they're mushed up in a ball in stinky clothes. That was hard. If that happened today, I'd be like, wow, he'll either do it or he won't. So think about your roles. Think about your roles. What do you find the most challenging? What challenges you? Where do you feel your sense of obligation? And do you feel a sense of obligation where you actually have made no commitment? Like I never told anybody I would do everybody's laundry. I thought I was very kind and generous by saying I am no longer going to do your laundry. Right? But we get caught up in the doingness of life. We get caught up in that. We get caught up in these roles and these obligations and the doing and the running from here to there. And we lose sight of what's actually important. Like that child said to their father, I want to see my friends, but does it have to be at baseball? Can I just be with my friend? Can I just be at the park playing? Can I just be? I recently I invited some friends over for a bring your own arts and crafts because I have so many unfinished projects. I know that if I brought people over, I might actually get my own stuff done. 2 people said, well, I don't know what to bring. I said, do you have any arts and crafts that are undone? Yeah, but I don't know if they'd be right. It doesn't matter, bring it. Full-grown adults worried about showing up with the wrong kind of activity? We take our doing so seriously, and we put so much weight on what other people will think, how it's supposed to be, and however you identify in your role, whether it's parent, student, whatever, we put so much weight in, well, to be a good student, I have to do ABC, X, Y, Z. Well, to be a good parent, I have to do ABC, X, Y, Z. So tell me, somebody give me something that you're struggling with your own sense of obligations. Maybe an obligation that you never really consented to, but somehow you're doing it.
Cooking.
Cooking. Oh, right? And is this cooking for other people?
Not anymore, no.
Right? Right? That's so true, though. That's so true, though. About the same time that I had the laundry epiphany, I also had the cooking epiphany, right? And I had a son at the time living at home who actually loved cooking. And so I asked him, how would you like to be responsible for dinner once a week? He said, can I do it twice? I was like, I mean, I guess.
I have a problem with being a parent and in your example of letting go of things, but more serious things. I mean, serious, but something more serious than that.
Like what? Give me a category.
Maybe a life choice about work.
Yep.
I mean, as a parent, I think you need to guide them, but it's hard to know when to let go of
Yeah. All right. So, how do we allow our children to make their own life decisions when we know that it's a poor life decision? How do we lighten up about that? I'm going to share a quick story with you. When my second son was 17 years old, he wanted to go live with his father. Hadn't seen him since he was, this big. But he really thought all his life problems would go away if he just went and lived with his dad. Now I knew that precious little heart would get broken. I knew that. And I did not want him to go. I did not want him to go, and I fought him. And finally, my first Unity minister, mentor, said to me, what would you advise someone else? And I said, take it to meditation. What? Take it to meditation. So I did. I took it to meditation. And I had a beautiful meditation in the sanctuary of our church. And when I came out of meditation, I heard a question. Do you love your son? And I got angry, because of course I do. That's what all this angst is about. Of course I do. And what I heard next actually altered the course of my understanding of these kinds of relationships. The next thing I heard was, then why would you want to steal away his experience? Why would you want to steal away his experience? So as I am working with anyone, whether it's my own children or I'm coaching someone, offering spiritual direction, I always think about that. What is this person's life experience in regards to whatever it is we're talking about? How many of you have made great personal evolution strides when things are all rainbows and butterflies? How many of you have made great strides in your personal evolution through trials, tribulations, difficulties, and heartbreaks. How many of you have learned how to make life decisions when you listened to other people tell you what to do? It's hard to watch the proverbial train wreck, right? It's hard. When you're watching, you know these decisions that this person you care about, you know these decisions are going to lead to anything not good, whether it's heartbreak, a bad career move, jail, right? That's hard. And if we are to truly love and honor one another, that means loving and honoring the life journey that is yours, not mine. Loving and honoring the life choices. Speaking of jail, I told my children, given my own history, I never spent time in jail, but if they ended up in jail, I would talk to them on the phone, and I would write them letters, and I would never come visit them. And one of my children ended up in jail for 5 years, and I never went and visited him. And I had someone, I was going to say a friend, she wasn't a friend. I had a person say to me, "What kind of mother are you?" And I said, "I'm the kind of mother who my children know my word is true." Talked to him on the phone, wrote lots of letters. We even drew pictures back and forth. But I never went to visit him. So when you're struggling with that, my advice would be to remember that it is not your job to steal away experience. It is not your job to save them from themselves. It is your job to love and support, offer guidance, and it can be taken or not. If you're offering guidance, it is an offer. If you are controlling, that is manipulation, right? What else do you got? What else is going on for you?
Being the only adult in the house.
Being the only adult in the house. So lots of obligations come up with that, right? Because if the kids are going to eat, somebody's got to go to the store. If the kids are going to get dressed, somebody's got to, do the laundry.
Somebody's got to cook.
Somebody's got to cook, right? So I'm going to share another story with my own kids. As you all know, I am not a morning person. I just, if the world would just operate, wake up at 10 a.m., go to bed at 2 a.m., like, I would be a happy woman. And I've never been a morning person. Young children, they're all morning people, right? They wake up at the crack of dawn and they want to start playing, right? So what I did was I got 2 plastic cereal bowls, 2 spoons, the right amount of cereal in a Ziploc bag, the right amount of milk in a pourable sippy cup in the fridge. I had the TV set to the right channel and I had it on a timer so the power wouldn't even come on to the television until a certain time, and then it would turn off at a certain time. And I trained my children, I don't know if I should be proud or embarrassed of it, but I trained my children, they were 2 and 4. When they got themselves up, I would change diapers, and then I got to go back to bed. They fed themselves, they watched an hour of morning children PBS TV, and I got to sleep. And I was not resentful about being a single mom, because the one thing I got resentful about was my morning sleep. Self-care. Self-care. It's all about looking at this ideal that is created and asking yourself, did I create that ideal? Do I want that ideal? Or has that been imposed upon me by my parents, by society, by whatever? When I realized that the idea of what I was supposed to do in the morning was something set on from this group of moms telling me what it meant to be a good mother, once I realized that's their idea, not mine. Why am I trying to go against my own nature? How do I get creative and get more sleep in the morning? That was my whole goal. How do I get more creative and get more sleep in the morning? And I know you have kids that are a little older. I think it's totally okay to, have assignments. Like my one son was willing to cook for the family because he actually enjoyed cooking. My granddaughter is happy to wash the dishes, even though I have a dishwasher. She's happy to wash the dishes. I do have to rewash some of them. Yeah. But it's about finding ways for everyone to contribute, right? And we want to break away from this idea that the mom or the head of the household or the whatever role we're talking about has to do it all. And really look at where these ideas are coming from. You set your ideal. Like my ideal was to sleep in the morning. How do I make that happen? If your ideal is I need a clean house, how do I make that happen? That was another one of my ideals. I needed a clean house. Guess what? I hate cleaning. Wow, that's something to figure out, right? From the time I was 16 years old, I had someone either cleaning my room if I was living with my parents or cleaning my house. And I was widowed first time around. So I was a single mom. I was on food stamps, the whole 9 yards. Still had cleaning ladies. Because it was an ideal that I created, that this is how I want to live my life. I don't have the money to do it. I don't want to do it myself. How do I get creative and make it happen? I loved being around little kids. Hey, I'll take your kids all day Saturday if you come clean my house. People who need a break from their kids are happy to come clean your house.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And when I was 16, I was the leader of my group, and I just asked my friends if they would clean my room, and they said yes. I was great at braiding hair, so that was often the trade-off there. So think about your, if it's just you, you're the only adult, think about where are these obligations coming from? And do I give an enthusiastic yes? And some of them we have, like, if you're not great about getting your kids to school, well, you have to get your kids to school, right? And my way of looking at life is how do I get balance? So there's always going to be things that I have to do that I don't want to do.
Baby wipes.
And as your kids grow up and leave, there's less and less of that, actually. But how do I get balance? I have balance of here is the say 20 things that I don't like doing that I feel obligated to do. 16 of them I can give up if I stop worrying about what my mother thinks, if I stop worrying about what my friends think, if I stop trying to live up to somebody else's ideal. And whatever number I just said, the balance of that, whatever's left over, that's much easier to deal with if I'm not spending my time, energy, and effort on all those other things, right? And this is what self-care is all about. It's getting the courage to say no. It's getting the courage to say, I'm only going to take 3 classes this semester instead of 4 because I'm burned out. It's getting the courage to say, I can't do that right now. Or more importantly, I refuse to play that role anymore. One more. What's going on? Where do you struggle with your obligations? Do we have anybody online? We don't know.
There's no commentary.
We have no chat.
I struggle with work obligations.
Work obligations. Is it things you have to do at work?
Things I feel.
Okay, so things I feel I have to do. As a minister, I can relate to that. Especially as a part-time minister, I can relate to that. There's this phrase in the unit, well, I don't know if it's just unity, but there's no such thing as part-time ministry. There is if you know how to say no. There is if you look at your contract and say, this is what I am committing to with an enthusiastic yes, and that's what you're going to get from me. Right? And in another field, here's my job. What am I going to give an enthusiastic yes to? And we can look at this as my given job duties, right? So those obligations that are just, there's no room for moving them. And then how many other ones are you putting upon yourself? And then, where the real magic is, why? Why are you putting that on yourself? Do you feel of value? How many of you are workaholics and you feel of value when you sacrifice your personal time for work?
Sometimes.
Yeah. This is why I work part-time. This is why I work part-time. Because I am a workaholic and I equated my value to sacrificing myself and my life and everything for my work. And to move away from that, I actually had to do contract work. So you're hiring me to do ABC 1, 2, 3, and then this whole enthusiastic consent thing. And I've got it down to a science now. So let's say your boss says, hey, can you stay late because we've got this project? Bring it to your heart. Can I give that an enthusiastic yes? Well, that means I'm going to have to cancel my anniversary plans, or that means I'm going to have to not do this other thing I had. You might have an enthusiastic yes and say, yes, I can do that. But if you don't have an enthusiastic, say no. How can I support you in other ways? And it really is as easy as that. It really is as easy as that. The reason we don't do that is because we don't want to face the consequences. One, well, what do you mean? If you cared about this job, you would do it. So that's a consequence that we don't want to face. And two, who and what am I if I'm not a teacher? Who and what am I if I'm not a minister? Who and what am I, whatever your job is? Right? Who and what am I if I'm not that? You're a divine expression of God. That's what you are. Right? So really it's all about what are the obligations that come with the job that I've already agreed to, I've already consented to, enthusiastically or not. And then over and above that, what have I consented to with a lack of a no, which isn't real consent. And then look at all those things, list them out if you want, and which ones can I give an enthusiastic yes? And here's what happens. The magic that happens is when you give a intentional, enthusiastic consent, life gets more vibrant. Your results are better. Your coworkers will look to you and say, wow, that's fabulous. And then you can also feel better about saying no to the lady. All right, so let's bring this to a meditation. And I just want you to bring to mind whatever your thing is. Where is your warped sense of obligation? What are you doing that is building resentment in you? What are you doing that you don't want to do? What are you doing in your life because someone else set some bar for you to hit? And you actually don't even care about that bar, yet you're shooting for that bar. So bring that to mind. And we'll just take 3 deep breaths. And if you're brave, give me that audible exhale. One more. One last time. Focus on the heart space. Imagine, sense, and feel that indwelling divinity, that indwelling Christ presence. Acknowledge that it's there. Embrace that that is your core. And bring your life situation to your heart. Just imagine grabbing this idea of this life situation and pulling it into your heart space. Ask your highest self, what is mine to do? And what is mine to let go of? What is mine to learn about myself? What is mine to do? What is mine to release? And what can I learn about myself? And we'll just hold that question in the silence. We are fully divine and we are fully human. Not two halves. Fully existing at the same time. It is our job to bring our best self to all of our life situations with an enthusiastic yes. Take this moment as an opportunity to set your intention. As you move forward in the day, the days to come, the weeks to come, what is your intention for your life situation? How can you move from where you've been to an enthusiastic yes and living your best life? Having set our intention, we know that the universe supports us in everything we do, and we are grateful for that support. We are grateful to step into living our best life. And so it is. Amen. So if you move throughout your day and the weeks to come, and you realize, wow, I have this obligation, I don't want it anymore, and you need assistance, email me. We can chat about it, because this is a real thing in how we step into living our best spiritual life. Living authentically, living joyfully, and living intentionally.